Hello there, Justin here. What are you? A Republican or a Democrat? That question has got to be one of the most asked questions in American society. And after all, why shouldn't it be? Each party aligns itself with a stance on particular issues. And if you agree with those stances, that says something about what you value and ultimately who you are as a person. But did you know that there's a third option?
Today, we will define third parties, identify the types of third parties, and explain the role of third parties within the two-party system. The essential question today is, how do third parties impact the two-party system? Come along.
America is widely seen as a two-party system. A two-party system is a political party system in which two major political parties consistently dominate the political landscape. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, but what about the third party? I want options. And look, I get it. Just hold your horses. Now, a two-party system doesn't mean that other parties don't exist. It just means that two major parties tend to dominate the political system for extended historical periods of time. Third parties normally exist alongside these major parties. But, okay, I'll be realistic with you for a bit. More often than not, the third party's the underdog. Some third parties have managed to win major offices, but in general, third parties bring up issues that are believed to be too politically risky for major parties. So how do third parties fit into the two-party system? Why even call it a third party? Well, a third party is any US political party that is not one of the two dominant parties. Third parties campaign for elections at all levels and in every branch of government. So essentially, a political party is a third party if it both competes in electoral politics and is not one of the two dominant parties. Now, third parties are not to be confused with civic associations. Remember, civic associations do conduct political actions, as we learned in Unit 4, but they're not considered third parties. Civic associations participate in mass democratic, community-led politics and lobby government officials. Now, third parties do participate at all levels of government, but they really only get a lot of national attention when they campaign for the presidency. But the harsh reality is, third parties have a tough time winning. Why might that be?
Well, for one, most states require a certain number of signatures to get a name on the ballot. This collection takes time and effort to achieve and becomes one obstacle some third parties have a hard time overcoming. Not only that, but campaigns have become increasingly expensive since the creation of television. Candidates and parties that can organize and activate the most electoral support typically win elections. These crucial elements allow the major parties to purchase better advertising space and help them better utilize local, state, and national networks to advocate for their candidates.
Running for public office is a not-so-public affair. In fact, politics traditionally has become professionalized rather than be a public service. So parties will often pay professional organizers to help run their campaigns. Candidates also tend to be independently wealthy, meaning that they can devote their time to politics. Third-party candidates often don't have the same time or resources that the major parties do. The last reason why third parties tend to fall by the wayside is simply a byproduct of our structure of government. One party proposes an agenda, the other party opposes it. See how easy that is? Throw on top of that the Electoral College. The Electoral College is kind of designed to produce two candidates for whom members vote for. So why start a third party? What's the use?
Before we answer that, time to show what you know. What is a third party? What are the barriers to successful third parties in American politics?
Third parties can form for a variety of different reasons, and those reasons define what type of party it is. For example, parties can form around a single issue party. An example of a single issue party from history was the Prohibitionist Party. The Prohibitionist Party formed in 1872 for one reason and one reason only: to ban the sale and consumption of alcohol in the United States. The shelf life of single issue parties is a little short, though. Once a major party takes that same stance, then poof, the single issue party is obsolete. Not stuck to one particular issue, some third parties are ideological parties. Some third parties are similar to the major parties. They have a core set of beliefs that inform their positions on different issues. Third parties can sometimes form from the major parties due to ideological differences. This kind of split can happen especially when one of the major parties doesn't move in a direction desired by segments of its members. A couple examples of these kinds of ideological parties are the Democratic Socialist Party and the Green Party. Now, not all third parties come from the major parties. A lot of them form independently due to a very different set of ideals or around a set of issues. Some examples of these kinds of third parties are the Socialist Party of the United States of America and the Libertarian Party. Finally, we have the independent candidate third parties. These third parties are formed around one particular person. Their championed candidate is often very charismatic, sometimes independently wealthy. But these parties don't last beyond the defeat of their candidate. A classic example of an independent party candidate is Ross Perot, who ran for president in 1992 and 1996.
It's that time again. Time to show what you know. Please list and define the different types of third parties.
Again, what's so important about these third parties? Why do they matter? Well, here it is, so pay attention. Perhaps their most important role is to advance popular issues and ideas that impact the nation as a whole by challenging the status quo, or the current state of affairs. Advancing popular ideas and issues is important, but the major parties tend to stay away from this for fear of isolating voters. A great example of a third party that advanced popular issues was the Populist Party in the 1890s. This party advocated for the direct election of senators and an 8-hour workday. Both of these ideas were enacted and normalized a few decades later. As you can see, these third parties could sometimes be ahead of their time.
The willingness for third parties to take on popular issues and promote novel solutions often reveals how major parties have lost touch with the average American. And when the third parties do this, they tend to gain more political momentum and votes.
Oddly enough, a third party candidate can end up swinging an election in favor of the major party it has the least in common with. Weird, right? This swing happens because third parties tend to take votes away from the major parties that they're more like. For example, when Ross Perot, a conservative third party candidate, ran for president in 1992, he ended up taking votes away from the Republican Party, the major party whose ideas most closely aligned with his. And then the Democratic Party candidate, Bill Clinton, ended up winning the election with less than a total majority. As these third parties' ideas take hold, it forces change from within the major parties. Major parties will then shift along the political spectrum to try to pick up voters who support those third parties. This phenomena keeps the third parties from spoiling the major parties' chance at winning, and also incentivizes the major parties to take up more cutting-edge issues. In the end, This process ensures that the major party system better reflects the current issues facing our nation and that they push for more diverse array of policy decisions to deal with those issues.
Let's wrap this up with a show what you know. Remember the essential question? It was this: how do third parties impact the two-party system? Don't forget to have your parents or guardians check the answer guide to see how you did. Time to recap. Today, we learned that a third party is a political party within the two-party system that typically does not have a viable chance of winning major offices. We also learned that different types of third parties exist, which help identify the overall reason and impact they have on the two-party system. Ultimately, third parties ensure that a two-party system responds to the needs of a nation and progresses as society changes.
That's it for us today. In the next lesson, we're going to look at what people are voting for and how elections operate in America. We call this the two-party system. We gotta stop for now, though. Have a great day, and remember to vote, debate, participate.